Hello and welcome to another episode of the Well Played Podcast. I'm your host, Warren Curtis, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Today we're talking about restraining orders, why Todd Howard won't give us any frames, and is Gears getting another game? But before we get into it, let's talk about what it is we do here on the show. We are here to talk about gaming from a mature-ish adult perspective. What that means is we're not going to get into these console wars. We're not going to talk about fanboys. We're not going to wave a banner or a flag for a brand, a console, a mega corporation. And we're not going to get into petty arguments around these little things. What we will do is we're going to talk about facts about the games and about the gaming industry, and we're going to do that in simple language. We're going to give our opinions about why these things matter, and we're going to talk about gaming as an adult, as parents, and we're also going to talk about the games that we're playing. You can find more from us on YouTube. The link is in the description on the audio version, and if you're on YouTube, you already know where that is. You can find us on Twitter by following at Amarren Studios. That is AMARREN STUDIOS. We're available as an audio show on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you catch your pods. Be sure to like us, rate us, ring that bell, comment. It helps everybody else find our show. And we want those comments. We want your feedback. So let's hear it. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Before we get into it, I do want to talk about one thing. We had a lot of coverage planned up for last week as a part of Summer Game Fest. I wanted to do 8 episodes in 6 days. I made it to the end of day 2, technically, I guess. The Summer Game Fest day. I did a recap episode, a mini episode that night, as well as we did the live stream during the day. And then Friday came along, and there was some shows happening that day, and I wanted to recap them along with our regular weekly show that we're doing right now. And I just fell under the weather. And I fell under the weather bad. And I was like, okay, not a big deal. We're going to do it Saturday. And then Saturday, worse. And then Sunday, even worse. And then by the time it all came around, I was just like, I'm going to focus on getting better and not stress about the show. And then that happened about Tuesday afternoon sometime, I think. There was lots of medicine involved and lots of trying to feel better there. So anyways, just felt at that point, let's just revisit everything on Friday. We'll do our weekly Friday thing. I don't want to put too much on me and our schedule and things going on. So we're going to do our weekly shows. And if small things pop up and things like that, you can see those minis as they come up, right? And you'll get notifications if you subscribe. So there's a good reason to do that. With all that said, let's get into this. News. We've got some few tidbits of news, and then I think we're going to talk a lot about the Summer Game Fest.
Yeah.
And all the shows that came as part of the Summer Game Fest, whether they're directly involved or not. But leading the charge this week in news, pun intended, is the Microsoft ABK deal gets issued a temporary restraining order from a U.S. judge. The FTC they filed for a temporary restraining order over reports that Microsoft was going to close the deal without consideration of them or the CMA in the UK, which I think they were right. There's lots of reports, we talked about them on the show in the past, that Microsoft is considering this as an alternative. The FTC also filed for a temporary injunction to prevent the close of the deal until after the lawsuit, which isn't scheduled to be heard until like late November, early December.
Which is what Microsoft wanted.
To get settled. So Microsoft they didn't want this temporary restraining order, this temporary injunction per se. They wanted the trial that gets associated with it. And the reason why they wanted the trial to get associated with it is basically accelerates this December timeline into now. And for lack of a better term, Microsoft is saying it's time to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Right? Put your money where your mouth is. Put all the chips on the table. Let's see what everybody's got. And I agree. I think it is time. It's been a very long process of this happening so far, and nobody has come up with a consistent thing that makes any sense. That being said, United States District Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley was assigned the case in San Francisco. If that name is familiar, she is the one overseeing the private lawsuit of gamers against Microsoft trying to block the deal. She is also the one that said, no way am I issuing a temporary injunction to block this deal over the matters related to that lawsuit. And because it's related, the court system automatically basically said it's free for her to pick up before they assign it to another judge. So she got kind of right of first refusal over it, and she picked it up. It applies to what her case is. It makes sense, right? Both, let's get all these matters pertaining to this thing dealt with at once. And that's why that system's in place in the American court system. She did allow the temporary restraining order, which makes sense. Again, the temporary restraining order only blocks the deal from the point the order is issued until the case is heard by her. And it actually blocks it for 5 business days afterwards, expiring at midnight on the 5th business day after her decision is made. Just to give everybody kind of clear-cut path on how that goes, it also allows other parties to file any appeals. Microsoft she allowed the date, and then she set a June 22nd and June 23rd date, which is next Thursday and Friday, for a trial in relation to this injunction. Basically, okay, you want your injunction? Let's find out what your case is on that. Next Thursday and Friday, we'll make a decision. Microsoft basically has asked for a 4-day trial for that injunction instead of the 2 days, giving them an opportunity to present their evidence, giving the FTC an opportunity to present the evidence, saying it will speed up the process for all parties involved and use less resources for all parties involved. And Judge Corley agreed. And instead of allowing the 4 days, she's actually allowing 5 days, 4.5 on paper, with Friday possibly going until 3 instead of quitting at noon.
Okay.
So, right? And that's going to allow the FTC to make whatever case it seems to think it has, bring up their expert witnesses, and it's going to allow Microsoft to basically counter all that.
Okay. See what their hand is.
And see what their hand is. The case, as the FTC has presented it, because as law is, you have to go, here's my case against this, and this is why I want this injunction, is it's all surrounding the console gaming market, and their skewed numbers of excluding Nintendo from the console gaming market. So they're saying,
how do you exclude
Nintendo? Right? There wouldn't be a console gaming market if it wasn't for Nintendo in reality, right? And these numbers are basically saying, well, it's a 50-50 market in the United States. Well, it isn't. There's still way more Sony consoles sold in the United States. It's closer in the United States than it is anywhere else, but you still can't just ignore Nintendo.
No.
Right. It's weird that they think that they can do that. Anyways, but what's really comical about that whole console argument is that whole argument has been basically disregarded as relevant, right? People, by 40 other regulators around the world, including the CMA, which is the only other entity that has any issue with this whole deal. The CMA has said the console gaming space, that doesn't matter. Let's talk about the cloud gaming space. And the FTC is like, no, let's talk about console gaming. So it's really weird that they're building their case on that. And, it is what it is. But there is definitely a slant against Microsoft on that. And this is definitely them putting Microsoft's head on a pike, waving it around, going, no more big mergers, no more big tech acquisitions.
Okay.
Right? That is definitely what it is. The FTC wouldn't allow Microsoft to propose any remedies prior to any of this injunction stuff, which is not really in character or really in relation to the purpose of the FTC. The whole FTC concept is to protect the consumers. This is why they have this process, it's to protect consumers. So how can you protect consumers? Well, if the deal isn't directly good for the consumers, let's talk about how we can make it better for the consumers. Yeah. And Microsoft is like, hey, let's figure a way that makes it better for the consumers that satisfies you. And the FTC is like, nope, not listening.
Well, there were several other people that stood up in Microsoft's defense too. Blocking this deal.
You have like Logitech has stepped up on it. NVIDIA has stepped up for it, like with the GeForce Now systems. The only real people against it, Nintendo has said they're okay with it. Nintendo said we don't care. Steam, or Valve rather, not Steam, but Valve has said, sure, why not, right? And to be fair, most of these companies just stand to make more money out of it. The only real objectors have been Sony and Google. And Google's only really objecting, I think, because of their place in the tech space when it comes to cloud.
Okay.
Right? They own a fair bit of cloud tech. They did have cloud gaming with the Stadia, though they forgot how to run that, and they had to close it. And it's ironic they're making a case that says it's bad for the business. Well, you're not even in the business anymore.
True.
But maybe they have a plan to come back. I don't know. The only company I could see that could put forth, hey, this is a threat to us, is Amazon with the threat it poses to Luna. And it doesn't really pose a threat to Luna. Amazon Luna is free for most Prime subscribers, and almost everybody, there's free Prime memberships in this household alone. Yeah. So, you have a lot of people have access to that without any real added costs. And then you can get a device and a controller and all that and beef it up. But cloud gaming as it sits right now is not the future. And I think that's why it's weird to me that Google's going, no, we need to fight this. I think they just want to fight it on the grounds that they keep on getting slapped by regulators for doing other things. And they're just like, go after them, don't look at us. But it is what it is. Several politicians as well in the United States, including Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota, have spoke out against the FTC blocking this deal as anti-American. And his exact words are, they're allowing a Japanese company to go unchallenged when two American companies are trying to do just that. And that's an interesting thing when you think of it. Microsoft and Activision both being American companies trying to unite. And here's an American organization or American governmental organization saying, no, we don't want you to do that because this Japanese company might get hurt. And, I'm not one to get into the geopolitical things like that because to me, it can bore a lot of people. I like that kind of stuff, but it can bore a lot of people. And I know I don't want to go down these tangents, but it is really interesting to see a company a country that is America first. Like, everything about them is American first, American branded, built in America, made in the USA, and rightfully so.
They're very proud of that. Yeah.
They're very proud of that, and rightfully so. And then they're going, no, a Japanese company might get hurt because of that. And it's like, since when did they start caring about that? Since when has that been their motive? So it is kind of weird. Regardless of any of that, this deal should get some sort of resolution in the next 2 weeks. Finally, we should see some sort of resolution. It might not be a black and white resolution. The CMA thing in the UK still needs to get resolved in some manner. But if Microsoft can get around the FTC, Microsoft can just close, and whatever the CMA wants to do to them, they can do to them. Yeah. Right? They are not going to be able to break them up. They might be able to levy a fine or something. And as we discussed before, $30-40 million is nothing when, Call of Duty is going to make $2-3 billion in a year. So let's just see what it is, right? Both sides are going to be able to appeal whatever decision Judge Corley reaches. However, that appeal is going to go to a Ninth Circuit judge. And why that is important is because the FTC only has power in the FTC court. Mm-hmm. And even if an FTC judge in an FTC court rules against the FTC has a policy that allows them just to ignore that and do whatever they want anyways, right? It's just bonkers. But if it doesn't matter which way this goes, if they appeal, it goes before a Ninth Circuit judge. They have to abide by the decision by either judge, really, by Judge Corley or by the Ninth Circuit. But if they don't like the decision Corley reaches and they don't think they have a good enough case for an appeal, right, the Ninth Circuit judge is going to appeal. That's a final decision. There's no other things you can do there, and you don't have grounds for negotiation. So once they drop the hammer on that, they have to abide by that.
Okay.
Right, because it's binding. And when Judge Corley comes up with a decision, if they don't like it, the FTC can still go, hey, let's negotiate Microsoft. Microsoft might be willing to do that. They don't have to, I don't think, but they might be willing to just to have good favor. Mm-hmm. But if they drag them through appeals and Microsoft still wins, there's not a chance they're going to listen to what the FTC wants. They're just going to do what they have rights to do as the Constitution dictates, and kind of go with that. This is kind of all on the trail of the chairwoman of the FTC, Lisa Khan. She's kind of been boiled up into several controversies lately, not recusing herself from a case involving Meta that she has a conflict of interest in, which is kind of odd. and her back channeling with the CMA about this Microsoft deal, which is against all policies and guidelines. So there's a lot of controversy there, and there doesn't seem to be anybody to hold her accountable. And I think that's why we're seeing senators talk about that. And these are Republican senators. They're senators that are typically built on big business and that kind of concept. And they don't want the regulation, but they understand that there's a need for it to a degree. But they need to be able to rein in those people that are uncontrollable in this regulation somehow. So I can imagine in the Senate that is present in the United States that something might happen as a result of that, especially with an election year coming up. That's the politics aside.
So, does the deal go through?
I think the deal goes through. As I said before, the merits of this case are based off of the console gaming space, and the data does not support that. I forget the gentleman's name, and I meant to write it down and I didn't. But there's a gentleman that is the expert witness on behalf of the FTC who has wrote a very controversial page or paper in a industry journal about mergers and acquisitions, but as recently as 5 years ago stood on the opposite side of this exact argument.
Okay.
So he's contradicting himself. Yeah. So any suit that Microsoft can hire and Activision can hire, and believe me, if I'm recognizing the names of lawyers in an article, they are big time lawyers. And I'm reading this article and I'm going, wow, that guy was in this case, and I remember this from this other case. So these guys are big time lawyers.
Right.
And those are just the lawyers designated for the United States defense or the United States case. The case in the UK is being represented by two gentlemen who have lordship. So when you have lordship arguing against the court or arguing in the court, you know it's a big deal. So they're not sparing any expense with lawyers.
No.
Right? No. These guys don't sit on a retainer, I don't think. Anyways, with all that, I think their case is weak. You have powerful lawyers that can just rip the stuff to shreds. I think it goes through.
I agree.
Right? And then, as I said, the only real chance anybody has on this appeal is if Judge Corley does a technical error of some sort or a miscalculation. And I just don't see that happening. From everything that I've read about her, and I've done a bit of Googling the last couple of days and gone through some cases and stuff, she's been very by the book, very predictable. And I should have looked up what the Las Vegas odds are on this, because I'm sure somebody's running a betting pool on this. I'm sure that the odds of her voting or going in favor of Microsoft are probably pretty high in this case. And that being said, other people on the internet that are in the know, like Foss Patents, who is a patent and merger and acquisitions specialist and a consultant, is saying she's not going to rule against Microsoft in this case. He even said at the beginning of the week, before this temporary injunction and all this stuff was announced, he said, this is how this week is going to go. Microsoft is talking about closing. We've heard these rumors. The FTC is going to file for an emergency hearing. They're going to ask for a temporary restraining order and an emergency injunction. And they're going to get the restraining order, but not the injunction.
Yeah. And
he said exactly what was going to happen. And then Monday afternoon, it happened. It just all went into gear. So very comical with it. The other thing I kind of wanted to think of about this is, does the CMA, do they drop their case if the FTC loses? What do you think? Do you think if there's nobody else fighting with them, do they just tap out and go home?
I would think that would be the smart choice. Like, they've dug their heels in, so I don't know if that'll be the choice that they make.
Yeah, it's there's a line there somewhere, and I don't know where it is exactly, in between that stiff upper lip British stand strong and, be calm, what is it, stay calm,
carry on,
stay calm, carry on, kind of, the world's burning around you, but just, stiff upper lip it, and, saving money and resources from, realizing when you've been beat. And I don't know if they just pack up, but I don't know if maybe when the case does come around at the end of July, if they present, a valid case at all, if they just kind of just go, you know what, we might just be wasting everybody's time here, but here is our thoughts, here's our evidence, try to justify their decision.
This is what we want.
And maybe come to some sort of agreement that is beneficial.
Possibly, yeah.
Right? Moving on from that, Todd Howard won't give me any frames, man. Right. Starfield, the new RPG from Western RPG legend Todd Howard, is going to run at 4K, 30 frames per second on Series X, and 1440p, 30 frames a second on Xbox Series S. People seem upset about that.
Yeah, they think he can do better.
Right. The game's obviously, as I said, it's from Todd Howard. He's the guy behind Fallout as recently, well, Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. He's also the guy behind the Elder Scrolls. He is the boy genius, the man wonder over at Bethesda. Anyways, and people are upset that it won't run at 60 frames a second or even higher. I've heard people saying, well, Halo can run at 120 frames, so what's this excuse? This Halo was 2 years ago. People are blaming the engine. People are blaming Xbox, like the console itself. People are blaming Bethesda and Todd specifically. All that really isn't true. And people are blaming is true, but that's not where the truth is. And the truth is, this is a design decision from the get-go. And this is probably a decision that they had in their book 2017 when they started making this game, or whenever it was. For those of you that never saw the trailer or the deep dive into it, I'm just going to say something. 400 sandwiches. You could very, very realistically in this game, it's just like in Elder Scrolls with cheese wheels. You could just go get a sandwich and stack it somewhere, and then go get a sandwich and stack it in the same spot, and keep on getting sandwiches and putting them in the same spot.
I just equated to getting mugs for Muggy.
Mugs for Muggy. You can do that with this. Leave them outside of the inventory, and they're going to stay in that spot in the world for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So think about that. You pick up that sandwich and you drop it, right? And it falls at this speed and hits the ground, right? And then you're on a different planet now. And then you pick up that same sandwich because you carried it from one planet to another, and you pick it up and you drop it. And now it drops faster because that planet has more gravity, or slower because that planet has less gravity, right? Or you take a bunch of the sandwiches, throw them up in the air at the same time, and they all collide. And all those gravities, all these things that we've been told 1,000 planets in this game.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around 1,000 planets.
1,000 planets, space stations and installations, other ships, everything like that, all more than likely having their own unique gravity systems of some description, right? I understand, there's going to be some terraforming aspect to these inhabited worlds, so they're more than likely going to be running at Earth gravity or, 0.98, 1.02, somewhere in the ballpark. But the idea of all these things having different gravity and different capability, right? And all these sandwiches running along, the amount of overhead, just thinking of that, and I'm just thinking of sandwiches.
Yep.
The amount of overhead running in the game to do that is just phenomenal, to keep track of all that. But yeah, sure, 60 frames, and all this stuff it's just bonkers. It's a design decision to make that happen. Did you want to touch in on that a bit?
Well, I think it's the right decision. It gives the player much more of a realistic playthrough, because if you take that sandwich from planet A to planet B and the gravity is different, you would expect it to behave differently. So they're giving us what we want when we ask for the realism. But they're also, so we have to kind of sacrifice a little bit here, because we're not at the technology where you can do everything for everybody, right? So we're given a little here, but we're getting that immersive gameplay.
Yeah, and that is exactly what it's about. And there's going to be guys, and I am going to be one of them, that is specifically going to take that exact same sandwich from one place to another and try not to lock it into an inventory chest or something, so it doesn't have to reload, and take it from one place to another to see if it interacts differently. Because I want to know if that design data, if that gravity attribute is assigned to the unit, or if it's assigned to the planet. I want to see how things like that happen, because I want to see how games are made, and I also want to see how I can break them. That is a fun thing. Blaming the engine is an old thing on Bethesda, right? People are like, oh, it's the Game Biro engine from 1998. Well, kinda. They revamped it into the Creation Engine, and then they revamped the Creation Engine just now. This is the Creation Engine 2. And the Creation Engine never really stopped being expanded, but the fact that they assigned Creation Engine 2 or Creation 2 engine to this is of import, because there is a very big tech company out there that makes one of the best engines in the world. It's the engine that Call of Duty runs on to this day. It's called id Tech, id Software, the makers of Doom, the makers of the original makers of Wolfenstein, hopefully the makers of Hexen and Quake coming up, are they came in and they helped out a lot over there, and everybody, we knew that they came in to help, right? That was the rumor going around. It wasn't a rumor that they came in to help. We were all going, well, they must have been helping out in gun combat, because the gun combat looked so good,
Yeah.
right? But they actually didn't. They came in and helped with the engine,
Yeah.
right? And they came in and they went, okay, this is how we're going to do real-time lighting. This is how we're going to do that. And they found so many efficiencies in the engine, and they took their time. Microsoft, Matt Booty and Phil Spencer said when they were on the couch with Jeff Grubb on the Giant Bomb at Night during the Summer Game Fest, they said when they bought Bethesda, they went in, they took a look at Starfield, and they said, take that release date, get rid of it. You do whatever you want. You take your time with this thing. You give it the date you are under. No pressure, no obligation. You make this game. Mm-hmm. So they had no pressure. id Tech or id Software came in and did their thing and made this engine amazing. And it looks amazing. And I am glad, like, there's another reason why we're not getting 60 frames. We're going to talk about that in a second. But if it was an overhead decision on the engine, I don't buy that. But I'm happy to get this game running 4K textures. It's going to be good and shiny, and at 30 frames, that is still more than playable. The other thing to consider is the Xbox was sold as the most powerful console in the world, the Xbox Series X, and it is on paper, right? The PlayStation 5 is right there with it, and I'm not here to fanboy which one's better or the other. I think they both have their merits and disadvantages, and I think they actually balance out. As an owner of both, I don't fundamentally see a difference between the two. That being said, they're both 3 years old. They're no longer the most powerful anything, right? Think of a phone that you owned 3 years ago. You know, your iPhones or whatever 3 years ago, they are obsolete.
Yeah.
Right? The same is about this, right? The most advanced tech there then is just normal tech now. But the thing is the games haven't changed. In fact, the games are getting harder. And the games that we've been getting on our Xbox and our PS5 up till now have been really last-gen games with shiny things put on them, right? Put it in kind of simpler terms, they've been upscaling the resolution to 4K in a lot of cases. Obviously, some first-party Sony stuff I'm going to exclude from that. A little less on the Xbox side because of their smart delivery system, but still, they've been also doing the upscaling side, right? And they're taking these textures, they're upscaling them to 4K, they're popping them in, and yeah, you can get that 60 frames a second because you're just upscaling textures. But now we're dealing with the next generation of stuff. These games are new games. They're not going to run on old hardware, right? They're going to run on a new PC fine, but they're not going to run on a 3-year-old PlayStation fine, or a 3-year-old Xbox fine. And that's where I think a lot of people are not quite understanding why, right? People are thinking they bought the Series X for Starfield, and I can't blame them. I did, right? Fundamentally, that's one of the biggest games I'm looking forward to, and I wanted an Xbox, so I wouldn't miss on that.
Yeah.
Right? I know I have a PC, but I like sitting on the couch. I like that environment, right? I am a console gamer in that aspect. So I think that kind of sums up where, as far as technology is with that. The other thing to remember is this is Bethesda, right? Frame rate and tech and performance in general. I don't want to bash on them about bugs too much, but performance in general has never really been their concern. Their concern is always about the experience, always about the storytelling and the world building, right? They've always believed PC users should be trusted to set up things the way they need to set them up in order to get what they want out of the game. So if you want a 60 frames a second experience, but you are getting tearing on the screen, or if you're getting a lot of pop in, when trees pop in the distance and stuff like that, and you're fine with that, sure. If the shadows are all wonky and all over the place and you're fine with that, sure, that's okay. you're a PC user, you can kind of grab that bar and adjust your scale the way you want it to. However, consoles being the way they are, there's a set kind of quality standard associated with consoles. And we saw that when PlayStation took Cyberpunk 2077 off the store, right? They were like, we don't care if you're going to patch this, we're taking it off the store because this is nuts. Granted, they're the ones that greenlit it to go in the store in the first place. That was more PR than anything. But that aside, that is a good example of quality assurance or quality expectations. And Bethesda needs to make sure games going onto the Xbox Series X and S are operating at a standard. I think 1440p 30 on a Series S is a pretty good standard. I think 4K 30 on the Series X is a pretty good standard for this game. Yeah. If this was Call of Duty, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't like it, right? But it's not Call of Duty. It is an open world, immersive RPG sim. It's a completely different thing, right? And at the end of the day, if you're upset that your $500 Xbox isn't going to run the game at 60 frames a second at least, then you could always go spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a PC that might be able to do it. Yeah. Right. But you got to get the right drivers and the right combination of everything in order to make sure that works, because it is a Bethesda game. So, to me, FPS is a non-issue for most gamers that I've seen. I think most people that are actually mad about this are influencers and social media personalities of some sort, and they're spouting off and getting their user base all riled up.
I don't think it's going to stop anybody from playing Starfield. Like, we can all cry if we want to, but you're still going to pick up the controller when that game comes out, that release day. You're going to sit there and still be super excited to play this game that we've been waiting for forever.
Exactly. Most gamers aren't ever really going to notice. If you're watching this and you weren't aware of this and you forget about this and you pop in the game, you're not going to be like, oh, 30 frames a second, it's garbage, and throw, you're most people aren't even going to notice. And even the ones that may have a chance of picking up on that, because there's certain situations where the frames per second is obviously noticeable in high action gameplay, but you got to have the right TV running at the right hertz in order for this to matter. You got to have the right HDMI cables and the right everything, right? And most people just don't have that combination of stuff because of the way we buy goods, and we don't go buy the whole computer and everything every time, right? With the monitors and all that stuff. And the monitors were just done. I need a new MOBO, or I need a new video card, and you get that, and then you get the next piece down the line. Yeah. And you're always trying to improve your computer, right? And, living room stuff is kind of in the same boat, right? You don't just go and buy a whole new living room. It's time for a new TV. Yeah. It's a new console. It's a new whatever, right? So it's kind of piece by piece.
Yeah. Definitely not a deal breaker for me.
Not a deal breaker for me at all. I think we kind of establish that. Let us know if it's a deal breaker for you in the comments. Outriders developer People Can Fly. They have signed a $50 million deal to make a game for Microsoft on an Xbox owned IP. People have been speculating what kind of IP this is. It's a Gears of War thing. Yeah. Pretty much certainly it's going to be a Gears of War thing. People Can Fly made Gear games in the past. They made they took Gears 1 and put it on PC. They did the Windows port. And they also made Gears Judgment. Right? So they have experience with Gears of War. They did they did Bulletstorm, and they did Outriders. They did some work on Fortnite, right? I think the important thing to get out of all that is they know Unreal Engine, and they know Gears of War. So it doesn't take much to put two and two together, right? Gears of War being built in the Unreal Engine from day one, right? The smaller budget, like $50 million, it's the press release says 3250. So obviously, you're not going to sit there and leave $20 million on the table. You might try to save your customer a little bit of money, but you're not going to leave $20 million on the table. It's still a smaller budget, with most AAA games nowadays looking at $150 to $200 million at the entry level for a game. And that's something with existing tech and existing assets. You can just kind of pop it together and build it in 3 years. This is obviously much smaller than that. Poland, the game being made by People Can Fly, which is based out of Poland, that might have a bit to do with it, because cost of labor and everything is a little cheaper over there, but it doesn't have everything to do with this. So that's making me think that it's going to be either a smaller scale Gears project, something in the 10-hour range,
Okay.
or something that is maybe just kind of an open ended, like a horde mode kind of thing or something like that. Multiplayer, like Gears Judgment kind of was, or kind of the other side of it. It's time for a remaster collection, I think, and this could possibly mean that they're going to take all the other Gears games, polish them up, re-release them. Whether they do a full remake or just stick with a remaster, I think it's just going to be a remaster. A remake still has a higher budget. Square Enix kind of dropped these guys after they made Outriders. Yeah. They have history of this contract work, as I said, but they're sitting around kind of looking for something to do. And here's Microsoft with everybody in their mentions going, hey, where's Gears? Where's Halo? Where's this? So, it makes sense. Just here's an established studio that has established work with this IP.
Yeah.
Let's put the two of them together and see what they get. This might bridge the gap in between now and the Coalition Gears project that is coming, which I think is going to be 2025 probably.
Okay. Yeah. So do we want a remaster or do we want something new?
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
All of the above. Let's take it all.
I think, it's been long enough. Gears 1 was an Xbox 360 thing.
Yes.
Right? And there's a lot of people alive today. There's people graduating high school today on this beautiful Friday in June that were born when that first game came out. It's a kind of a scary thought. Well, kind of close to it anyways, because what would that be? That would be like 2006. So that's 14 plus 3, 17 years. Yeah.
You're getting in high school.
There's kids graduating high school today that were born when the first Gears game came out. So they might be acutely aware of it. They might be, might be something their big brother played or something like that. And not something they were directly involved in, but maybe they liked Gears 5 or something like that. So I think it's time to get those 360 Gears games, shine them up, release them.
Okay. Yep.
That being said, I'm always hungry for something new.
I was going to say, you always want something new. You're never going to say no to a new experience.
I'm not going to say no to a new experience for sure, and I'm not going to say no to something new in the Gears universe. I just don't think we see something new in the Gears universe before we see the Coalition Gears game. That gives me heebie-jeebies, right? The whole thought of that is a PR nightmare. They announced the Coalition project very early. We know it's in development. We know it's moving along really well. So let's just see where it goes and get there, right? And as I say, that should be a 2025 thing, I think. They did talk a bit about that as well in their coverage, and they want to hit those 4 big releases, 4 Microsoft Game Studio releases a year from here on out, right? And I think I have a good idea what next year's games are. So, and I know none of them are going to be Gears, and I don't like the thought of this falling into 2026, because 2026 is also going to more than likely be the Initiative's Perfect Dark game. So the new Gears game and Perfect Dark releasing in the same year is a little iffy on me. I think Gears belongs but released alongside something like Fable. They have distinctly different kind of user bases, and it kind of lets them hit that first-person shooter, Gears isn't a first person, but Perfect Dark is, right? So it lets them hit that shooter market, lets them hit that, the RPG market and things like that, kind of all at the same time. Other than that, really, this week has been kind of a really busy one.
Yeah.
In between all the shows that happened end of last week over the weekend, and then being sick and all that stuff. We had the Summer Game Fest, we had the Xbox Showcase, we had Capcom, we had Ubisoft Forward, we had all sorts of events this week. I always screw this name up. Ryu Ga Gotoku, the studio behind Yakuza Like a Dragon, Yakuza / Like a Dragon. It's called Like a Dragon now, but it was called Yakuza when I was a younger boy. They had an event at 11 o'clock last night.
Yep.
So, there's events still happening kind of and all that. Instead of summarizing all of them, though, because we're talking, dozens of events, hundreds of games, I thought maybe we should just go through and talk about the things that we thought were our favorite parts and our kind of games that we thought were interesting, caught us in a certain way, thought were of note, or we absolutely fell in love with. So what caught your eye?
Well, there was quite a few to choose from, like you said. So, I don't know. I liked quite a few of them. If I'm going to say something that caught my eye that I wouldn't have expected it to, I'm actually looking forward to the second Alan Wake, the Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 2, that's a good choice. I played Alan Wake 1 so long ago, it kind of feels like a fever dream. And it was part of a game club that I'm a part of last year, and I just didn't do it because I was too busy with other things. And I was like, I don't have time to get through Alan Wake 2 or Alan Wake 1. And now with Alan Wake 2 coming, I'm like, maybe I got to. And then I have, well, don't even get me started about what my backlog's like, adding more games to that. But yeah, it's spooky, it's exciting, it's chilling, it's everything it needs to be. It has that 2 protagonists. It looks really good, and you know, Remedy's been busy. They're one of the busiest third-party studios in the business right now, and it's an impressive thing. So seeing them pull this off, finally getting Alan Wake 2, I think is good. And remembering that is all part of the Alan Wake and Control and all that. It's all part of the same universe to them. So seeing how this all maybe gets tied up a little neater, might be interesting as well. So yeah, it's a good game. You know, I was absolutely mesmerized, and this is the very first game that kind of came out of Summer Game Fest, was The Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It's a side-scrolling platformer. It's after my heart. I love side-scrolling platforms. Those are like that's just printing money. That's Orange's credit card out. It looks fun. It looks exciting. I didn't really get all the discourse about the music, but I just said that's a Ubisoft thing and moved on, and everybody else was like, no, it's all wrong. But it looks so fun, and it came out of left field to me because we know they're remaking or rebooting, I should say, The Prince of Persia with a remake, right? So they're redoing I believe the Sands of Time, can't remember for sure, but they're redoing, you know, one of the 3D Prince of Persia games, and it just went into development hell, for lack of a better term, and they kind of rebooted it and started over just recently. And I was like, well, okay, it's going to be a while until we get a Prince of Persia game. And then Ubisoft just shows up with this, right? And to be a side-scrolling, it's a smaller scale thing. I get that. That's what I like a lot. That I like my AA games almost, if not more, than I like my AAA games. and this is a welcome thing.
Well, in a different eye-catching way, we can talk about the gore that comes along with Mortal Kombat in these new trailers.
Yeah, that was just basically a fatality trailer. It had that sound that comes with all the blood gush and all that, and that I swear it was stuck in my head all night.
The sounds alone.
The get over here and and all that. It was so good. I just wanted to plug quarters into my TV so I could keep on playing, but it didn't take it. That's a reboot, actually, kind of. And Ed Boon came out and talked about that, and I thought it was really cool. He's like, after the events of Mortal Kombat 11, you know, we now have, and I'm going to avoid the spoilers a bit there because I know there's probably people, dads especially, that are sitting there trying to play games and just haven't gotten that far in it yet. But basically, after the events of 11, the world needs to be kind of recreated, and that's why Mortal Kombat 12 is called Mortal Kombat 1. It's a very intentional thing. And
it does have a very classic looking fight style when you're in your fight. It goes right back to what I would equate to like the classic Mortal Kombat when you're looking at the screen. And then when you're seeing the cinematics, then you get your, you know, modern, your new, the more shiny and vibrant and that. Not to say that the fight scenes aren't, but they just give me that more classic feel when you're actually like looking there going like, oh, for me, I can't wait to button mash, but you know. Maybe I'll learn.
It does have that. It does have that feel to it. You have that Mortal Kombat, that aesthetic. It's that Mortal Kombat trademark kind of look that even Injustice, which came from them, doesn't really have that as much. And I don't know if it's just the color palettes or what that they do with it, but it's a beautiful thing. And then you got that story side of it, that kind of that Mortal Kombat Deception era story RPG aspect to it, which is very interesting, very kind of cool. And oh, this just might get me into fighting games again, right? I know Street Fighter 6 is out, and I'm not really a Street Fighter fan. I played the demo. I kind of, or not actually the demo. I was involved in one of the betas. I thought it was good then, and I was like, maybe I'll pick it up. But with looking at kind of the release schedule and everything, I'm like, nah, I don't got time for what's coming out, to get into Street Fighter. And then every time I open up my phone, people are playing it, and it makes me think about it.
Change that decision.
Might have to change that decision. And I'm sitting there going, but Mortal Kombat, maybe that's the thing, right? So we'll see. But yeah, it looks like a fun thing. And we've got Jean-Claude Van Damme coming in to voice Johnny Cage, which is a full circle thing. I talked about this a little bit last week and after Summer Games Fest, but what happened is when Neversoft was Midway Games, they were going to make a fighting game, and basically their concept was First Blood, right? Or not. Oh, is it First Blood? Yeah, it was First Blood. Sometimes I get that and another one mixed up. But anyways, their concept was, Jean-Claude Van Damme, the game, basically. And they had kind of a character model, and they had a fighting mechanic figured out, and they couldn't get the license, right? So then they just, let's do Mortal Kombat. We'll create this whole other thing, and look at what that turned into. And the entire time they were trying to get Jean-Claude Van Damme to come on board to do the voices for Johnny Cage. And they never could. And now they got him coming on, right? So now it's full circle. Like, the opportunity just wasn't there before, and now it's there. And it's going to be cool. It's going to be fun. Jean-Claude Van Damme being one of the genre-defining actors of the fighting movie era, right? I think it's going to be kind of cool. Sonic Superstars. After Sonic Frontiers last year, and that it came out in better shape than I thought it would. It came out to better reception than I thought it would, but it's definitely not my Sonic. Sonic Superstars, 2D Sonic. He's back.
Looks great. Yeah.
Right. I love 2D games, obviously, right? We were talking about the side-scrolling platformers from before. Here we are again. 2D Sonic is back. I've never really been very good at Sonic.
It's such a fast-paced game.
It's fast. And it's one of those things that, I've never been good at it, but I've loved to be bad at it. And I can't wait to suck at this one. Right? It's just one of those things. It's like, and it's kind of a guilt or something that hangs over me about it, because I've never been good at Sonic, but
There's still time.
I don't think anybody's actually good at Sonic. I think there's just people that have better luck maybe at some point in time, but
to be fair, it's been a very long time since I've played like classic, the side-scrolling Sonic. But I don't believe I was very good either.
Right? So, it's back. It's a smaller thing, and I just kind of love these smaller things, and I love for getting big IPs with little smaller games a little bit. So there's some excitement.
Well, you need something to break it up. You binge one game for way too long. So, and then so after so with Sonic coming out, right? What's next for you to look forward to?
I think I'll do a quick hit of a few here. I think that were kind of note for me. Yep. Yes, Your Grace 2.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember me playing this before. It's a kingdom simulator. You're a king, and you got to make all the decisions for your kingdom. So this is a sequel to that. Okay. It's a winter kind of thing. I don't know how much more I can say about that. It's a kingdom simulator. That's a Warren game.
It's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, that is a Warren game. Like, just put a stamp, Warren game, boom. I enjoyed that first one a lot. I played the snot out of it. It was fun. It had a cool little story. And then you also had the kingdom running aspects to it, which were fun because you got to make decisions. You basically, what happens is somebody comes you're sitting in your throne and you hear pleas from your people, and the people come and they go, oh, your grace, this is what's happening, or yes, your grace, this is, people are have ruined the tavern and we need a new door. And you go, here's 30 quid, go buy a door. And somebody else comes up and says, all my cows ran out of the pen, and we need to get more cows, or we need people to round them up. And you go, nah, go to hell. Right. And you make your decisions based off of that. And then that in turn creates these other things that are happening in the background that will eventually
so you're narrating kind of how your story is progressing.
Yeah. And all these things that come from the background will boil up, and you'll have to deal with them later, right? And relationships that you forge with other kingdoms and other areas will also be heavily dependent on what these decisions are that you make, right? Some countries might be like, you're too nice to your people, we're not going to do business with you. And you're like, okay, that's fine, you're assholes anyways. But then all of a sudden you don't get spices, because the spice route goes through their country, and you're like, oh damn, now we got to figure that out. And it's all sorts of stuff, and that's me. I love that stuff. After that, we have Immortals of Avium. This is that magic-based FPS with lots of mobility.
I may be way off here, but from the trailer, I get it's like Halo meets Magic.
Yeah, it's kind of Halo meets Magic. It gave me a lot of Apex Legends vibes with its mobility and quickness, but it has a AAA looking appearance to it. But it's from an indie studio. It's being published by EA Originals, so it looks like it's a massive undertaking. It looks like it's going to be a fun game, or at least an interesting game. I'm going to give it a try. It's outside of my wheelhouse, but I think it's something that deserves to be looked at, because there's some interesting concepts there for sure. And then I think the last thing out of the Summer Game Fest side of everything was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which was actually the one more thing. Keeley faked us out with a talk about a DoorDash promo code, and then all of a sudden here's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Everybody's been waiting for this. Everybody that's a Final Fantasy fan anyways has been waiting for this. It's coming early next year on 2 discs, if I remember correctly, for the PS5. Which trying to figure that one out. I'm excited for people that are going to be excited for this. Right? I think that's a big thing. It's time that this came out. I think it should have been out already, but here we are.
They seem to have more realistic graphics in this one, less the cartoon classic like Final Fantasy style. There's a much more of a modernization I've noticed in their graphics with this new one.
Yeah, somebody at Square Enix watched Game of Thrones, and they wanted to kind of have that darker, sinister appeal. I think that sums it up mostly. Obviously, with modernizing them, they're going to have a little less of that. But Final Fantasy VII was a very good looking game, and in its time, and then doing these reimaginings, because they're not remakes really, right? These retellings of these stories with these characters and all that, and doing new graphic sets and new everything with that. I think they're doing a good job of staying kind of true to the originals, while also, changing their look, changing their mood, making it fit modern Final Fantasy, which that's an interesting thing. So, I'm just trying to figure out how much game you got to have in order to ship on 2 Blu-rays.
From the trailer alone, we see multiple different characters that we're getting like background stories with.
Yeah, and
right.
Maybe there's just a lot more video or something associated with this that could be part of it. I'm just thinking of like games that are extremely big and blown up in size. I think of Call of Duty primarily because it's like a 200 gig game now. And most of that's because it's not optimized. And this is threatening to be bigger than that. Well, as big as that, right? A Blu-ray is 80 gigabytes. So if you're using both layers on a Blu-ray DVD, you're using 80 gigabytes, and then you have 2 of those. That's 160 gigabytes, right? So you're pretty much into Warzone territory with your file size, and that's just for a game that came out in the 90s, right? I understand this is a retelling, but granted, then it was on 4 CD-ROMs, which is less than 4 gigabytes because what's 860 megabits on a CD-ROM. So, big difference there.
Maybe we just get a deep dive.
Yeah, maybe it's just Yoshi P yelling at you to play Final Fantasy 16 over and over again or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what it is.
Yep.
We'll see what it is. Anything on the rest of the shows there? We had the Xbox show and that as well. Anything there that you wanted to touch on?
Well, the Xbox show came with a bunch of games in itself to...
Yeah, anything from there?
Well, there was more than one from the Xbox show that I think that I'm definitely anxious to play. But to pick like one, I really liked Avowed.
Avowed?
I really like the look of that game.
Yeah, it looks really good. We got that concept trailer a couple years ago, and it was all CGI, and it kind of basically said, "Hey, we're going on after the Elder Scrolls. We did follow it with the Outer Worlds, kind of did follow it in space there. Now we're going to do the Elder Scrolls with Avowed." And I was like, okay, well, let's see how this goes, because I really like the Outer Worlds, and I love everything Obsidian does. And this is got a little bit of a different feel to it. They changed their logo from green to blue, which I also like because that's my favorite color anyways. But I think it's found its voice is the best way to describe it. I think finally Avowed has a voice. It comes next year. It's an Obsidian game. Like, it's that, everything about that's perfect. They did say in the extended showcase, which happened on Monday, that Avowed is going to be about the length, maybe a little bit longer than the Outer Worlds as far as the primary campaign goes, but you still have all the other wonderful open worldy stuff that you can do in that game. So I think, we're obviously a lot smaller than an Elder Scrolls game, but still a very good, fun experience, I think.
Yeah, along with that one, I was really psyched to see the Cyberpunk coming out.
Yeah, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, the expansion.
The expansion coming out.
Yeah, Idris Elba, Keanu Reeves. Let's go. Yeah, it looks shiny.
It does. Comes out all nice and clean. I'll be happy.
Yeah, bug free. No stuttering, no wangs flying out of pants. Yeah, I think it's finally time to go to Cyberpunk again. It's finally there. Get our goggles, get our leather. We'll go. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about that other than it's coming. It's a bit more money than I thought it would be. It's coming, the end of September. I think it's $40 for the expansion, but it's an expansion. It's just that's more than all the DLC for The Witcher they've ever sold. So, in fact, right now I think you can get The Witcher for $20 with everything. But yeah, it looks really good. It looks like a larger scale DLC than what I think everybody was expecting. Being an expansion kind of explains it. So that's good.
What were your headline games?
Oh, I got a laundry list.
I know. I'm just passing the torch to you now to go on about yours.
They hit me in all the feels. They opened up with what I thought they were going to close with, to be honest. We were talking about them teasing about Fable. And you asked me if I thought it was going to be there, and I said it has to be there.
Yes. And
boy, howdy, it opened the show. We had a wonderful opening with obviously a character talking about his role in this universe and why he despised heroes. And then you realize that wasn't CG, that was actually gameplay. And when you read at the bottom of the screen, it was gameplay. And then the developers came out and said that was gameplay, that wasn't CG. That was all in-engine gameplay running on a Series X. And man, did it look good.
It did.
It has the humor and the whimsy and the magic of Fable kind of all in this little trailer. A little bit of discourse online that I don't even think deserves attention about the appearance of the main protagonist. The female main protagonist apparently doesn't live up to other people's expectations of what a female protagonist should look like, which I think is fuckery and bullshit, because you wouldn't say that about a male protagonist, but whatever. That is all the attention I'm giving that bullshit. Anyways, it looks great.
Can't wait to play it.
Next year, 2024. It's going to be a holiday 2024 game. we'll definitely see next year. I hate to be like next E3 we will see, or next Summer Game Fest.
I was gonna say, where are you talking about E3?
Right. Well, E3.
You're aging yourself.
E3 might be back next year. Then, Reed Pop said that we're targeting 2024. Like that's our goal. So we'll see.
I don't know.
But anyways, next year at Microsoft's event, we will see the full dive on Fable.
Yes, we will.
I would anticipate we're going to get the deep dive of what deep dive of Fable and Avowed, kind of like we did with Starfield this year. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a bigger explanation of it. They also had a Ubisoft Star Wars game there, which we've talked about a few times. Star Wars Outlaws is now the title. We have a title. This is the game from Ubisoft Massive. It's an open world Star Wars game. So right there, kind of sold a little bit because I want to poke around these places and see and get into the nooks and crannies of it. But I was a little worried that we would be focusing on one play style or another play style. Being a Ubisoft game, they tend to be more open, right? But in this case, I was worried from the initial presentation that it was going to be stealth, and just kind of stealth only and exclude all the other stuff. From watching the extended gameplay trailer from the Ubisoft Forward, no, it's not just stealth. It's you can run a gun, you can do whatever. You can be Han Solo, you can sneak around, whatever you want.
Yeah, they give the option to you.
Obviously, you can't play as Han Solo. I should correct that, right? Before anybody runs and tweets that out. But yes, it's you're playing as a fixed character. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but you're playing as a character that they've tailored. You have a companion that was tailored to sell plushies. Kind of everything about it is Star Wars as well as Ubisoft. So it looks really fun, looks really good. Comes next year, and that's going in the cart day one, I think. Forza Motorsport, we knew it's coming. It was supposed to be out already. We got kind of the big blowout. This is what to expect. This is what to experience, or what you're going to experience in Forza. And it comes in October. It looks like Forza. It smells like Forza. It's a racing game. I'm in. You know that already. So, I just wanted to bring that up, that it was there. Studio that I said was due to have a game there, In Exile, had a game there. I expected it to be Wasteland 4, something like that. But no, they showed up with Clockwork Revolution, which is like a steampunk time-traveling action game, right, from the company that did text-based, turn-based play before. Now they're doing kind of an action. So it's a bit of a departure from what they did before. This is from Brian Fargo. He's part of the original Fallout team over at Interplay, right? So in between him and the guys that are now at Obsidian, right? They were the guys that created Fallout. So these are creators that I've always loved their storytelling and their capability to do that. Now, he's doing another kind of original story for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
And with this Clockwork Revolution, I think it's going to be cool. Good vibes all around, right? Steampunk. A lot of people are like, it looks like BioShock Infinite. No, BioShock Infinite looks like this. and I know BioShock Infinite came out long ago, and this hasn't come out yet. But BioShock Infinite was heavily inspired by two things, obviously. System Shock, which was one thing, right? And another game. And that other game, can't remember the title for the life of me right now. I'm bad at this tonight. I'm usually much quicker at remembering this stuff. That other game came from Brian Fargo. Nobody owns steampunk, right? And the whole concept of steampunk, it's a concept, right? Obviously it's a lifestyle for some, but it's a whole design choice and design aesthetic. But Brian Fargo is one of the first people to do it in a video game, and BioShock Infinite leaned heavily on that aesthetic in their appearance of the game. Right? So that's why it kind of comes full circle. Before we get into kind of the big ones, I wanted to talk about this quickly here. Persona 3 Reloaded and Persona 5 Tactica have been revealed for Xbox. We knew this was coming, but Atlas accidentally leaked it on their Instagram like 3 days before the show, so we knew that. But Atlas is finally bringing games to Xbox. So this is Sega Atlas. This is Persona finally on an Xbox console. I think there is a very good market of people that love Persona games, don't have a PS anymore, or may not have access to them otherwise. Then joining Xbox is an excellent thing, and it's an excellent way to expose other people to them. So I think that's a good thing. Then we got Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. This was actually at Summer Game Fest, but I grouped it down here because of obvious reasons. It comes out November 9th. It's a spin-off to the series, the Yakuza series. Obviously now they're calling all of them Like a Dragon. They got rid of the Yakuza name. I wonder why. This is the return of the protagonist that I have always loved, yes. Kazuma Kiryu. It's a very good time to be a Like a Dragon fan. This story, it is just everything I want out of this. Right, that trailer was perfect for a Yakuza fan or a Like a Dragon fan. And then we got the other trailer at the Xbox show, another big Japanese series coming to Xbox, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. This is a sequel to Yakuza Like a Dragon, or Yakuza 7, or Like a Dragon 7, whatever you want to call that one, that starred Ichiban, right? Ichiban Kasuga was in that. This is Ichiban Kasuga's sequel. This is his continuation. It's set in Hawaii. He woke up naked on a beach and scared people. And there was a well-placed crowd the entire time, like there usually is. Kiryu and Ichiban seem to join up together here in this adventure. There's some scenes that were released from there where they're talking, and looks interesting. It's got its RPG and turn-based elements back, whereas Like a Dragon Gaiden's got the action fighting that were more associated with the Yakuza series in the past. So I think we're getting the best of both worlds. This Infinite Wealth comes out next year. There's apparently during the summit last night, the director of the games, or of the game, said the title Infinite Wealth has been picked for a very long time, and there's a very specific reason why it's being picked, and that will become evident when we play the game. And I imagine it is probably a play on a cheat code, because the amount of references to Dragon Quest in the original Like a Dragon is huge. He's referencing that game constantly in there, saying this is just like Dragon Quest, right, and stuff like that. So it's fun. It's going to be a good time, and I can't wait for that. And then we hit the big boy,
the one nobody can stop talking about,
Starfield. I don't know what I can say about this that hasn't already been said, but it looks amazing. It's kind of everything that I want in a game, period. You got shipbuilding. You've got this immersive character creation thing that I'm going to spend way too long on. As I said, you got the shipbuilding thing, which I'm going to spend way too long on. You got a backstory generation kind of system where you got to pick, who you are and where you're from, and kind of all that, and your traits are all going to dictate that. And I'm going to spend way too long on that. And then, you could do smuggling, you can do exploration, you can, hijack other ships and be a pirate. Like, whatever you want there. And to me, this is the perfect space RPG. And I love Mass Effect. I love a Mass Effect a lot, but that is a completely kind of different. It's a very focused space RPG where you're playing the hero of a space military thing and blah 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 blah. This, you can kind of just do whatever you want, and that is obviously sandbox is more my style. So with that, it's a Bethesda game. The playtime's going to be endless with this. I'm sorry. Right. I'll see you in 2 years. They also announced a cool controller, which I leaked the week before, a headset that I leaked the week before, and now we're also have the collector's edition, which comes with a fucking really sweet watch for 300 American. I had it in the cart. It did not get bought. I had it in the cart. It was this close, but that OLED switch up there for the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch. That took all my good graces, I think, for that kind of purchase. So I'm not going to do another one right away. Anyways, I don't know what else to say about Starfield. It's everything I want. right? I was asked online, I was asked, what I am going to play the game as, or what's going to be my character's backstory. And I just replied with a picture of Nathan Fillion from Firefly as Captain Mal Reynolds. And it was like, obviously, right? And
space pirate.
yeah, I'm going to be a space pirate. Like, you gave me all the tools to play Firefly the game. I'm going to play Firefly the game. That's what I'm going to do. That is where I want to start with it anyways. And then, which is weird because for me, I always do the goody two shoes hero role first on my playthrough of these kind of things. And then I usually go chaotic evil for the second. And with this one, I'm kind of starting in that chaotic good tangent. I'm in the other corner and I've never been up there for my first playthrough. So it'll be fun to see how this goes. I am probably going to stream the hell out of this. I've applied to Bethesda for the content creator package for this, which doesn't get me anything special other than a bunch of banners and some assets and stuff like that. But we'll see if I get that. It'd be kind of fun.
Well, I don't know if you can. But what's your most anticipated out of the games that we've been previewed?
Obviously, Starfield.
Yeah, like, obviously
Starfield.
Give me something I wasn't expecting.
After that, I think the thing I'm most excited for, we didn't even talk about actually, is City Skylines 2.
Right. Skipped right over that one there.
Yeah. And it's not a mass appeal game, so I didn't really want to drop it into a rundown there like that. But it is
definitely a personal one for you.
That is a Warren game through and through. I have hundreds of hours and probably just as many cities built and started, and sometimes finished to the point where I couldn't grow them anymore. Yeah. In City Skylines.
Or when I sit there and tell you, I want you to name this, that, and build that there, and then you have a crazy city that doesn't make sense.
But you know what? What is fun for me is then making it make sense, right? Okay, so I can't change the roads, I can't do this, but what about transit systems? What can I do to make that? And those are the challenges that I like about these things. I can't wait to see what they come out with. It comes out in October, so I can't wait to see more of the dev diaries and stuff like that come out of this game, and see what they're going to give us this time. Right? It looks insane. I saw a thing that they are talking. The old game was about 52, I want to say, square miles in size at maximum when you got all 9 tiles unlocked. And this one is 159 square miles if you got all the available tiles unlocked for consoles. So that is obviously on PC, you don't have locked tile rates because you just crash your computer. They'll let you. All right. But with console, they have some limits. So that's cool. 159 square miles. That's city building time. That's more than city building. That's Rhode Island probably isn't that big. Probably is. I don't know. Anyways.
Well, I stick to my earlier statement. I'm still looking forward to Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 2? That's your thing, yeah?
That's my most anticipated from our previews.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to put together something where you stream some of that. I think that might be fun.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So. It comes out in October, so perfect time to do a spooky game.
Yeah.
I think it'll be cool.
Great. Yeah, this week of craziness, as we explained, didn't really leave much opening for my personal video game time.
No. Unfortunately, with everybody else being sick.
And being mommy.
And you have to be mommy and running around and driving me to doctor's appointments and everything else.
But
you didn't get a whole lot of playtime in. On the other hand.
I was going to say, why don't we hear about all of this? What is it? Forza Horizon you've been playing.
Yeah, I stepped off Zelda a little bit because I didn't want to get kind of sick of it or overwhelmed with what was
took
going
a tiny
on.
Break.
Yeah, I didn't want to get any burnout, and I'd been doing it nonstop. So I went back into Forza Horizon 5 because they released some square pickup trucks, and I like me some square pickup trucks. So I went and got myself an old Ford F-150, and I got myself an old was it a GMC or a Chevy Wrangler? I think it was a Chevy Wrangler that they put in there, or K100 anyways. Truck, same difference. And I went and got that and started doing the rally expansion a bit. And man, I forgot how great, how great that game is. I love rally racing so much, and they did it so good with that expansion. And and it's fun because they nail the traditional rally driving. Like people that have played Forza Horizon, like they have dirt racing, which is essentially what we're talking about is rally, in it. And they've always done that because it's always been the concept of the mixed purpose or mixed use things. So you have your asphalt racing, you have your dirt racing, you have your street racing, and you have your off road like cross country racing, right? And they also do drifting and drag racing and those other things in there as well. This is rally as rally. So this is like if you picked up dirt, like Dirt 5, and wanted to play that, and you're driving down the track, and you have your co-pilot telling you, slight left or over bump and all that. Well, they're doing that, right? And you're also not racing car to car. You're racing against time, right? So, point to point, you're racing the fastest distance or fastest across that distance, and it's all time based. So you're not bumping into other cars, which is an advantage, but depending on your playstyle, that's also a disadvantage because some people like to just slam into the car and use them as to get them around the corner and things like that.
Nobody does that.
Nobody does that ever when you're driving a Dodge Viper with rally tires on it for some reason. What have I done? I've created a monster. Slam. Hey, I'm winning. That never happens at all. This is very technical and good that way, and they've also done it in the Horizon style. They've added a little bit of fun to it and a little bit of comedy to it, explaining it. And you have two characters that are, one character's like, well, I'm doing traditional rally, and the other character's like, we're just doing rally and that. But they're doing the call outs for you, and they're doing the soft left, over hill, crest, chicken, and you go past a chicken or a bunch of chickens in the road, right? And things like that. And it's fun, and it's always a good time in Forza Horizon.
It is. It's a great game.
And getting those little challenges so you can unlock these nice, pretty square trucks, and do that. This week is they have the Hummer electric truck in there as the prize. I'm gonna go for it anyways. So I've also been playing a fair bit of Like a Dragon again.
Yes.
Because why not? It's Yakuza Like a Dragon. I love the game. I love almost everything about it, and it's just fun, and it's wacky, and there's guys in garbage bags trying to kill you, and there's an excavator that you gotta fight. I was gonna
say, you were telling me you had to fight an excavator, and I just kind of looked at you like,
yeah,
okay.
How in these games you run up on these characters, and it'll say like hoodlums, right, and the fight music will start, but it'll hoodlums across the screen, all intimidating like, and your characters will be like, we're gonna fight these hoodlums, and then you run up and there's an excavator, a giant caterpillar excavator with a big arm and bucket, and it says heavy machinery across the screen, and your character's like, oh, what are we going to do? Let's punch it in the arm thing. And you do that, and it's fun. It's it's insane, and their imagination, it's too much. I love it. I love it. Can't wait for the new ones. I stopped at a point in Yakuza Like a Dragon. People who have played it will know where I am right now because I just talked about this thing. But I just stopped at a point because I got stuck, and I was in this point in between a safe state that I couldn't get back out of, and a guy that I couldn't beat, and so she's like, okay, well, I'm walking away from it. And I played some other games, and I did that for like a year or whatever it's been, and I just booted it back up, and I beat this guy first try. I don't know what my hang-up was with it, right? But I just went, I don't know, beat him. And so I just continued on. So I'm at a point in the game now where I gotta see it through to the end and see where it goes. So I'm probably gonna finish this off and then bounce back into Zelda again, and hopefully get everything wrapped up as far as that goes, and any of my other outstanding games, which is a huge list, before Starfield, because nothing is happening after that. And I got the early access. I got the 5-day early access, so it's happening at the beginning of the month of September. It's going to happen. That's everything though that I've been playing. So anyways, that about does it for us this week. You can find more from Amanda and myself on Twitter by following at Amarren Studios. We're on YouTube. Our link is in the audio description of the show. If you do watch us on YouTube and want to bring us with you on the go, You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your pods. She has been Amanda. I've been Warren. You've been the best audience I could ever ask for. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Goodbye. Whoop. There we go. Goodbye.